Sir Isaac Newton. This one is the part that we have started earlier. Now, till this part we have seen, we will take a review. Sir Isaac Newton was born in 1642 when he was a very young child. His father died and his mother marries a clergyman and left Newton in care of his grandmother. When Newton was left in care of his grandmother was very kind, very good. She sent Newton to school, and some of the things of his school life are also given there in the opening lines, opening paragraphs of the lesson Sir Isaac Newton, where when he was in school, he used to play with his toolkit which he has created. It was made by himself. He was interested in the saws, he was interested in the cutters, he was interested in his toolkit, and he was always busy in creating, in framing, in forming, in making number of tools. And his neighbors were very curious and wondered to know about the creation of Newton. When Newton's mother left him, Newton was taking interest in mechanics and mathematics. His interest in mechanics and mathematics made him very skillful. One day, he made a clock which runs with the help of water drops, and his grandmother can see the time in her yard. Such type of the clock was made by Newton in his school age. Then after, on seeing the clock, some of the neighbors advised his grandmother to train Newton, to send Newton to be an architect, or definitely he will become an architect, because he is very skilled, he is very perfect. And friends of Newton advised his grandmother to train him or to apprentice him to be a clockmaker, because Newton was very perfect in machines and mechanics and mathematics. There was a windmill near his village. Newton used to visit that windmill regularly. Then his visit to the windmill, and on observing the windmill for many days, when it was running, when it was stopped, when it was not in operating, when it was not in operating, Newton became very happy, because by which he can understand, he can see its mechanics, its creation, and such was his interest. And then it was in the mind of the Newton to create such a windmill at home. Thereafter we have beside the water clock, Isaac made a sundial. Thus, his grandmother was never at a loss to know the hours, for the water clock would tell it in the shade. And the dial of the sunshine, the sundial is said to be a still in existence at Woolsthorpe, on the corner of the house where Isaac dwelt. If so, it must have marked the passage of every sunny hours that has elapsed. Since Isaac Newton was a boy, it marked all the famous moments of his life. It marked the hours of his death, and still the sunshine creeps slowly over it, as regularly as when Isaac first set it up. See here, when Isaac Newton made a clock with the water drops, and the dial of the clock was a sundial, where his grandmother can see the time very easily, and it was set in the corner of his house in the village Woolsthorpe. In addition to that, yet we must not say that the sundial has lasted longer than its maker, for Isaac Newton and will exist long after the dial. Yes, and long after the sun itself shall have crumbled to decay. Isaac possessed a wonderful faculty of acquiring knowledge by the simplest means. For instance, what method do you suppose he took to find out the strength of the wind? You will never guess how the boy could compel thus unseen, inconstant, and ungovernable wanderer the wind to tell him the measure of its strength. Yet nothing can be more simple. He jumped against the wind, and by the length of his jump, he could calculate the force of gentle breeze, a brisk gale, or a tempest. Thus, even in his boyish sports, he was continually searching out the secrets of philosophy. Then after, here this is the information about that clock made by Isaac Newton in his yard. Not far from the grandmother's residence there was a windmill which operated on the new plan. Isaac was in the habit of going thither frequently and would spend whole hours in examining its various parts. While the mill was at rest, he prayed into the internal machinery. When its broad sails were set in the motion by the wind, he watched the process by which the mill stones were made to revolve and crush the grains that was put into the hooper. After gaining a thorough knowledge of its construction, he was observed to be unusually busy with his tools. See here, there was a windmill near the house of his grandmother, and Isaac used to visit the windmill frequently whenever he has a time from school. He used to visit the windmill and used to observe the windmill. When it was not in working, he used to observe the machinery. He used to observe the sails of the windmill. He used to observe about its construction, and then after, Isaac Newton became very busy in constructing something. Definitely, he was busy in making the windmill at his home. He was making the windmill at his home. With this, I conclude. Thank you. We will look after the remaining part in the next lecture. Thank you.